All right, y'all. Welcome back to the Who's Right podcast. And, nothing's happened. We had the introduction to Juan Soto, but nothing else has really happened. We had Devin Williams go to the Braves, Tucker go to the Cubs. But with the Mets, no extra moves. But before we get into it, subscribe to the channel, like this video. We're trying to make a push to 100 subscribers on the channel. But leave us your comments. But before we get started, Victor, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. After this week of the week before was kind of crazy. And so having a week of kind of just sitting back, taking it all in, we got to see the Juan Soto press conference, verify some things, also hear some new things, see the new contract, hear some new rumors, and, things are just trugging along, So it's just been great. Awesome to see Juan Soto in that New York Mets jersey. And exciting to hear about all the rumors that are going around too, because like Juan Soto hinted at, we're not done.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not done. And seeing them in that jersey, it's awesome to see. Shout out to Jonathan in the chat. Merry Christmas. But seeing Juan Soto, seeing that hype video that Cohen's son made, this is like everybody's saying, it's a seminal moment in Mets history, and it's a change in what's going to happen in the future. And the interesting for me thing was, I don't know if you saw, but the interview the Mets was interviewing Juan Soto's dad, and Juan Soto's dad watches the Spanish Mets broadcast.
Absolutely, man.
So to me,
Dude, yeah. You see the stuff like that. You see Juan Soto talking about how much he loves the organization already. This was all just a game to get the most money, but ultimately, like we've all been saying, he was always wanted to be a Met. We saw the post that he posted when he was a national in 2019 of him in New York at Citi Field and just taking it all in and just kind of saying, "This is my future home," and now he's home. And they talked about how much family they have in New York, how much they love New York because of the culture, how much they love Mendoza because of the Latin culture that he brings. And dude, Juan Soto is always meant to be a Met, and his dad obviously played a big role in it. His family played a big role in it, but ultimately, he grew up knowing in this organization or grew up in the major leagues knowing that he was going to ultimately come to New York.
yeah, and like Jonathan saying, the Yankee fans weren't having it, and all of a sudden, Soto's not the best in the world, and whatever. But I'll take it. I'm loving it, every bit of it, every bit of all the Yankee meltdown and everything. I'm here for it. But like Juan Soto said, we're not done. There's a whole bunch of things to do, and so we're going to address a couple of those things. Obviously, we need somebody to protect Juan Soto, and the idea of protecting Juan Soto. It's right now, the rumors are Bregman or Pete. I still am a big advocate of Pete. Not only because he's a homegrown Met, but the power, right? Bregman might be an overall better baseball player, but he's not a better power hitter than Pete. And even in a down year, Alonso put up some numbers, some home run numbers. So imagine with a whole bunch of people on the base paths, right? Lindor and Soto are going to be on base all the time now, right? So Bregman is a good player. Obviously, you move Vientos to first if Bregman comes. But if it was up to me, I vote Alonso just because of the power, and you can't underestimate all the he plays every single game, so you can't underestimate that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think of it this way. If we sign Alex Bregman, he's not going to be our cleanup hitter. We sign Pete Alonso, he's going to be our cleanup hitter. Alex Bregman is most likely batting fifth in this lineup if he comes into the Mets organization. Brandon Nimmo is probably batting before him if Alex Bregman is signed. And so I just think that when you talk about what is more valuable to the team, it's Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso is obviously not the defensive player Alex Bregman is, but that's because they play different positions. Pete Alonso plays a much better first base than the numbers will show. He's able to pick the ball better than anyone else in the major leagues, and his only deficit at that position is the double play ball. And obviously, is still somewhat early in his career, but this is just the prime of his career where he's eventually he's going to get those plays down. He was working on them this year. It looked a lot better than it has in years past, and even progressively throughout the year, he's looked better, picking those balls and trying to get those double plays. And that's probably what has gotten his defensive numbers down was having those double play miscues, if you will. But at the end of the day, he's able to make stellar plays, um, pick his guys up when they don't have the best throws, and lay it all on the line. And when you talk about emotions, we're probably talking a little bit about emotions because we want Pete Alonso to come back, be a lifelong Met, break the home run record, and get his number retired in the rafters. You know, we just saw that David Wright's number was going to be retired and this year. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And it's exciting stuff, but I really want another homegrown Met to be in that kind of situation. You know, we're going to see Francisco Lindor up there probably eventually, especially when he wins us a World Series. And same thing with Juan Soto. But both of those guys aren't homegrown Mets. Pete Alonso is, and so there is emotion involved in this. But when we talk about the player comparison, still think Pete Alonso is a better fit for the Mets organization because he is a better offensive player.
Yeah, and the homegrown part is a big part of it. Not just because he's homegrown, but because he's the guy you know, right? Bregman has had some wrist issues, had some issues that have kind of um, you know ha- he had a bad start to this year, and eventually was able to turn it around. But with the wrist, that zaps your power, and if you can't recover power from just being um, on from your wrist. It zaps your power. So if Bregman, sorry, I got distracted with my grandkid being passed away to mama there,
Yeah, sorry.
but
Yeah, he decided to use the bathroom. I don't know if y'all heard on the thing, but he's
but it's all good. It's all good. But um, with your wrist, it zaps power. So Bregman being a 25 um, home run hit guy, if he has no power, he's down to about 15 probably. And Pete, obviously he walks more than Pete, just slightly more than Pete. And it's one of those things that we know Pete. He plays every single game, and I don't think there's a better place for him than here. A lot of people have been talking about waiting for Vladdy, but that's a crapshoot. You don't know if you're going to get him next year, and I'd rather be sure on the guy we have than risk. Because everybody think about what happened, right? This season with Soto, we were stressed out for 2 months, right? And not until he signed were we did we have confidence that he was coming, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, it wasn't about the money because the both offers were comparable. It was he just wanted to be here, and but that doesn't mean Vladdy wants to be here. So that's not we can't be risking those things on a maybe. And Alonzo is a guy that plays every game, and we don't have to worry. We pencil him in, and he's ready to go. He gets hit in the hand, and he's ready to go as soon as he's ready to go. So he wants to be out there, and I'd rather trust a guy like Alonzo than take a chance on Bregman.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, Francisco Alvarez has a preference on who he prefers in a Mets uniform next year, and because we see him post on social media that he wants Vladdy over here to have that trio of Juan Soto and Francisco Alvarez um, and Vladimir Guerrero. But like you said, that's not a sure thing. He did decline his the Blue Jays $340 million extension, but that's just because he saw what Juan Soto was making. So if he can go out and make that with another team, then I think he's or something not the same but similar. Then he's going to go try to test the market. The age of extensions might be over because of what the Mets were able to do this year with Juan Soto. I don't think anyone's going to sign a major extension because of what they're able to get on the free agent market, especially with the desperation of teams. Because we've seen teams really go out of their way to get these guys, especially big market teams. And so I would rather the sure thing, especially like you said, because he is a guy that we can trust and that plays every day. But Jonathan brings up a good point, and it gets more into what we're going to talk about in a little bit with the trade market. But with first baseman, Nathaniel Lowe is available now. The Texans traded away um, uh, um, Isaac, or they traded for Isaac Paredes, or sorry, now I'm talking about the wrong Texas team. But they're a team that might be willing to listen to trade talks for Nathaniel Lowe. And same thing with Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor's on the last year of his deal. They're not going to pay him as much, or they don't want to pay him next year, and they're probably going to try to trade for or trade him away. He had a great year last year. He was able to provide some power for that for the Guardians, but it was a career year for him, and he did that in Cleveland. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like for him, but with Nathaniel Lowe, like Jonathan is pointing out, they got Jake Berger. Jake Berger's probably going to play that first base DH. They'll probably do a little bit of mixing, matching there. I'm not sure, but he can play first base, and so they do have those options. And so one of those guys might be a good option. But again, I think Josh Naylor is probably hitting fifth or even sixth in this lineup, behind guys like Brandon Nimmo and Francisco Alvarez. We know that where Pete Alonso is hitting in this lineup, if he comes back, he's hitting fourth and he's hitting in that cleanup spot. And what Juan Soto wants right now, and what the Mets want, is a guy that protects Juan Soto and keeps him, as a lot, keeps the lineup moving. And obviously, Pete's had his struggles, but those are all interesting conversations to have.
Yeah, and I'm with those conversations, but those are Plan B conversations for me. For me, those are Plan B. I'm all about um, signing Pete first. That's my first option, and because you guys you mentioned it. Naylor's on the last year of his contract this year, and it's one of those things where what are we going to be giving up for these guys? For 1 year guys, for 1 year guys, I'd rather sign those guys that are on like Carlos Santana or guys to that effect. Even Josh Bell, or I think he was already signed, but even those guys, if we're doing a 1 year deal, because what is Texas going to want? What is Cleveland going to want? They're going to want some guys, and for me, those are playing B, C, C, D, because the guy that can only this year, the only guy that can protect Juan Soto is Pete Alonso, and that's so for me. Those are good options, but I think those are down the line options only because Pete signed somewhere else. And if his market develops, then he signs somewhere else. But the other part of news, somewhat, because we kind of talked about it already, is the Luis Castillo rumors. Seattle has officially put him on the block, and what's it going to take? What's it going to take for the Mets to get a Luis Castillo? So that's interesting to me on which guys that might go over to Seattle. Um, I'm assuming that we're either going to send one or two guys, either a Marte or McNeil in that trade. And but other prospects, is it is Brett Beatty enough? Is it two prospects? Is Brett Beatty maybe and some other prospect down the line enough? What do you think could be the options for Brett Beatty to? I mean, for that trade to happen? Is McNeil, Brett Beatty, and maybe some other guy enough, or you think that's not enough?
You know who's really been propping himself up right now, playing really well in the Venezuelan league, Winter League, is Luis Angel. He's got monster numbers. He's got 19 steals, not been caught once. He's got some homers, batting above a 300, and has around a 900 or over 1,000 OPS. And I think that's going to be really attractive for teams in its offseason, especially with the small sample size that he was able to put last year in his tenure with the Mets. So that's a serious prospect that I think is going to be traded. He's not ranked high, but he's been proven in not only the Venezuelan league but in the major leagues. So I think that's a very viable candidate to be traded over to Seattle, along with the Marte. Although Juan Soto seems to really love Starling Marte, and so I do see him staying more than anyone else. But if we pay the money on Jeff McNeil, that's also a guy that they can have that we can ship over there. I'm not sure how much we want to pay for that because again, Jeff McNeil um, might not be so attractive to this Seattle team that's looking for a spark in their lineup. Although Jeff McNeil won a batting title, he didn't have the great numbers last year that would warrant a fair trade. But you're going to need to trade a lot of those guys. Brett Beatty is an interesting conversation because I don't think that David Stearns wants to give up on him yet. I think he still wants to at least prop him up a little bit, give him some time to build himself up, and even fight for a position on this team. Maybe take a Jeff McNeil kind of role next year, and that's why he's holding on to him. But those are if we do have a trade package for Luis Castillo, I think it involves maybe even a Jet Williams, but I'm going to say Luis Angel, um, Ronnie Mauricio, and Jeff McNeil or a Starling Marte.
Yeah, no, and that market again, Jet Williams untouchable, Brandon Sproat untouchable. If the conversation starts off with those guys, then we're probably gonna pass. Sagano just signed with the Orioles today on a 1 year contract, and one of the teams that were kind of mentioned on going after Luis Castillo was a team like the Orioles. Obviously, we're not going to compete prospect wise. The Mets aren't going to compete prospect wise against a team like the Orioles. But it'd be interesting to see if they get into the game or stay out of it. If they stay out of it, I think we got a shot. But if they get into the game, I don't think we got a shot. And but it'd be great to have Luis Castillo because he'll be cheaper than Sean Mania, and he's more durable than Sean Mania. As much as I love Sean Mania, he's more durable than Sean Mania has proven to be.
Well, at the end of the day, Luis Castillo will be the ace on this team if we get him next year. Sean Mania, unfortunately, is not trusted to be the ace on this team. The only reason Luis Castillo is getting traded is because the Seattle Mariners, as we saw last year, have three or four aces on their team, and they don't need a Luis Castillo type. Obviously, they don't have the depth to be able to kind of be comfortable with trading him away, and that's why it warrants a return that it's going to be worth it for them. They need a spark in their lineup. They don't average a lot of runs per game. They're probably last in the league when it comes to that, behind the Whites or in front of the White Sox, and um, so that's why they need run producers, guys that will knock the ball over the wall, if you will. And right now, it's just really unlikely that we have a guy that will match up with what they're asking for. So unfortunately, Luis Castillo trade does not seem plausible for us with what they want in return, um, and so that's why I'm still kind of in the market for one of those mid rotation kind of arms that we've talked about in the past. I'm still gunning for Jordan Montgomery type because we saw what he's able to do in the postseason, and he can fill a depth piece for us, and maybe we can even do a fair return, if you will, in a trade like for a Tyler McGill for a Jordan Montgomery. But Luis Castillo, I would love to have him over here. Um, but the other ace, if we're talking about aces, we saw that the Astros trade away Kyle Tucker this year, and I think they might be in the market to get rid of some other guys, and Framber Valdez might very well be on the table.
He might be, but to touch on the Montgomery thing, I don't think that's going to happen because I think that's a total project. And what I mean by I don't think it's going to happen now. I think Montgomery will be revisited if we don't get Roki Sasaki, and because I think that's going to be our sixth starter, and a guy like Jordan Montgomery is not going to be trusted to be a middle or front of the rotation guy, right? So he's going to be, our sixth starter because I think Stearns has made it clear that we're going into a six-man rotation. If we do get a guy like Montgomery, it's because we didn't get Sasaki at this point. Because of of Clay Holmes and Montas, I think those guys are the back of the rotation. We got Peterson and Senga. We need some type of front of the line starter, like either a Manaya or a Luis Castillo. But as far as Montgomery, I think he's going to be an option if we don't get Roki Sasaki. Now, Framber might be an option. Who knows? I don't know what the Astros are doing. They're kind of retooling a bit, and they kind of said goodbye to Bregman. With the whole trade with the Cubs, getting not only a stopgap third baseman in Isaac Paredes, but the prospect Cam Smith is also a top third baseman prospect, and so I don't see Bregman going back there. And so, are they trading Framber, or is this opening up some money to sign a guy like Framber, right? Because not only did they get rid of Tucker, who they're not resigning, but Bregman's not going back, and so is this opening them up to sign Framber to a long year deal. So I don't know if he's actually available. I'm not sure what the Astros are doing. But all I know is that they don't have Tucker, and that Bregman is gone because of the trade, because of that trade. So as far as Framber, that it's a I hope if it's a possibility, I'm in. But I don't think it actually is a possibility. I'm not sure what the Astros are doing there.
Yeah, obviously we're gonna explore all avenues. And David Stearns, even in that presser that Juan Soto was coming to the Mets, was thinking about tomorrow and thinking about the next day. He was not done thinking about the offseason because he knew this was just a step in the right direction, but just a step into the offseason and not the completion of it. And so I look forward to seeing what he does. He loves operating in the trade market, and that's why these trade targets are fun to talk about. But he's going to have probably throw us a trade that we didn't even see coming. Not a Framber Valdez, not a Luis Castillo, but somebody else, and we're going to be oh so shocked because it happened. The one that happened that was unfortunate that we talked about last time was the Garrett Crochet. Uh, a crazy trade. A lot of prospects went over to the White Sox, and they're obviously trying to build for their future. So, and the Red Sox are in win now. Unfortunate that we couldn't get that deal done, but who knows? We might get someone else that is very high end or a project that we might see, and David Stearns and that pitching lab is able to turn them into an ace. Exciting stuff to see.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, and the way David Stearns operates, we're not going to hear what's going to happen, like you said. We didn't hear much of what was going on with Soto, other than the Boris leaks, right? So David Stearns is going to operate behind the scenes, and we're not going to see it. So before we get out of here, um, I want to hear what you guys got think. What trades ideas that you guys have, and let us know, even on replay. Let us know what you're thinking. But before we get out of here, I want to touch on David Wright. David Wright a little bit. He's one of those guys, like you mentioned earlier in the podcast, that he's a homegrown guy, right? If we look at back at that contract, it was a bust, right? But because he was the captain, because he was the guy that led the Mets well, we kind of look well upon his tenure with the Mets, right? I don't know if that has to do with the injury, because it's not like it was about bad performance or anything, but he's a guy that fought to be on the field. As we saw in his last season, he was fighting to be on the field, and you know, he's forever Captain America. Like even Chipper Jones shouted him out in on X. He's forever Captain America, and he's going to be that guy on July 19th, where we celebrate and for at least Mets fans, because he'll be forever, the captain.
Yeah, no, he's one of the staples of my childhood. Him and Eli Manning are forever idols of mine because of what they were able to do for my childhood and just what they were able to accomplish for their teams and for my favorite teams growing up. But David Wright is obviously who we're named this podcast after, who sparked my Mets fandom. I still remember going to Mets games as a kid and just getting to the field early just to watch David Wright hit batting practice or field some baseballs. Him and Jose Reyes were fun to watch together. And David Wright, like you said, grew up a Met. But what's even sweeter is that he grew up in Virginia too, which was really cool for me to see, being a Virginia kid myself. And so loved David Wright, and I think it's awesome that he gets his number retired. I think it's pretty early for him to be getting his number retired, to be honest, because he just retired, in 2015. Uh, But at the same time, it's never too early for a guy like David Wright, where we know he's going to be in the rafters, and it's awesome that Steve Cohen and the Mets are always looking to honor their homegrown stars and guys that have meant so much to this organization. And we know that David Wright will be a forever Met, and um, uh, he gets to cement that on July 19th. So just awesome stuff. Tickets are going to be expensive, but that's one of the days that it's close to my birthday. Hope so maybe I'd love to be in the stadium for a number retirement of David Wright.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. Like you said, David Wright holds a big part of you guys growing up, and him and Jose Reyes were the guys that lit up the score and defense and all the defensive plays. But you can't get enough of talking about those guys. So, but we always love David Wright here, and when he retired, I'm not gonna say I shed a tear, but yeah, I'm not gonna say anything. But love David Wright, and we'll leave it there, guys. Let us know how you're feeling. Let us know about what kind of trades you're thinking. Let us know your thoughts on David Wright's retirement, and if you're going to make it. Let us know. Let us know how you're feeling about that. And when do you think Alonso's going to sign? Is it going to sign before the new year? After the new year? Let us know how you're thinking and how you're feeling. But remember, guys, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and replay. Let us know your comments. But before we get out of here, Victor, any last words?
Yeah, I saw a post today that it was Big Poppy. He posted on Instagram, the Yankees lose, and man, that's just where I want to leave it. We still live in their heads rent free. They're always talking. They're going to talk their trash about Juan Soto until he retires, and beyond. And so, love to see it. Love to hear it. And we're going to continue to sing the Yankees lose.
Let's go. Let's go, Mets.
Let's
See
go,
you
man.
next time.